All right, my Bible in 365 brothers and sisters, we have arrived at the book of Ecclesiastes. And folks, I want to just get right into the passage that I want to share. Now, I want to simply say this. Ecclesiastes, did I just say Ecclesiastes? Ecclesiastes is a book that is filled with a lot of unbelievable wisdom, but it has to be nuanced. And there's a lot that needs to be said about many of the things that you're going to read in that book, because what this book is, in essence, is Solomon, King Solomon, writing all of his thoughts concerning the many things that he's tried to pursue in this world, the wisdom. He talks about gardening and all kinds of things that he pursued. And he ends up saying this at the very end. He says, look, all is vain. In essence, the only thing that matters is your relationship with the Lord. And that's pretty much what he says. At the very end, he says the only thing that matters is God. Now, with all that said, there are so many places where there is great wisdom in this book. Now, we've never really talked about this. Actually, we've talked about it. I've never really shared with you as the Bible in 365 crowd, a demonstration of how this looks in the Bible. But the Bible is filled with all kinds of incredible business advice. Like literally, you could learn how to run a business and be successful if you obey the teachings that the Bible gives. And this is one area, one of the passages I'm going to go through is one area where this happens. By the way, this isn't just for business. This is for life. So let's jump into it. There's a lot of good principles here. And I'm going to make this one brief because I want you to really meditate on it and think about it, because it's an important and powerful principle. Look what he says in verse 5 of Ecclesiastes chapter 10. He says, "There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler." Okay, so let me just translate this a little bit. He says, I have seen this terrible evil here happen on this earth. And it is an evil that comes in the form of an error that rulers make. Business owners, people in a position of any type of advantage, which could be any of you. He says, folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. Okay, now this is very interesting, and we can spend a lot of time talking about what this means. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. The idea here is that the more authority you are given, the more, for lack of a better term, the more dignity you follow, the more dignity follows you. It's very easy to fall in some big traps. This is, by the way, something that Charlie Kirk really understands, and so does Erica, that with notoriety comes some big problems. Now, if you are a business owner or you're an overseer of sorts, if you just simply manage your family, this principle applies to you. Even as a single person, it helps you to understand a powerful biblical principle that is so important. Let's read it here. Verse 7, it says, I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. In other words, I have watched people who should not be riding horses, actually riding horses, meaning in a place of great wealth. And I have seen people who should have great wealth walking as poor. And that sounds kind of backwards. And it is backwards. But he explains what happens here. Look what he says in verse 8. He says, he that diggeth a pit shall fall into it. And whoso breaketh a hedge, okay, I lost my spot. Oh, a serpent shall bite him. So think about it. If you're working and you're digging, there's a chance you could fall into the pit. If you're cutting down some bushes, it's very likely that a snake could come out and bite you. This is par for the course. This is how it works. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt wherewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. So if you're moving things that are heavy, you could get hurt. Your back could get hurt. If you're going to wood and you're working with wood, whether you be cutting it, splitting it, whatever, you could get damaged. You could be hurt. But look what he says in verse 10. If the iron be blunt and he do not whet the edge, meaning he does not sharpen the axe, Then must he put to more strength, but wisdom is profitable to direct. Okay. What's he talking about? Well, we're going to break it up into two sections, okay? The first section we'll break up is the first several verses I read, verses 5 through 9. The second section will be verse 10. Verses 5 through 9, when we talk about all of these errors that proceed from the ruler, the fact that a ruler ends up walking when he should be riding a horse, and the servant ends up riding the horse when he should be walking, speaks of the fact that there are people who will put their shovels to the ground, who will start cutting the bushes, who will do the physical and manual labor. We can speak about this in many ways, sort of metaphorically. In other words, there are lots of people who will put in a ton of work, but they will get to the point where they're so frustrated because of the trials that they engage in as they do the work that they, in essence, give up. And the tragedy that he's talking about and the error that he's talking about is what happens when people do most of the work and then give up because they don't see the fruit. You do most of the work, you give up because you don't see the fruit. Then somebody else comes in and experiences all the fruit of your labor. He says, that's a terrible tragedy. The picture here is work hard and don't give up. Be consistent. But verse 10, he says this, if the iron be blunt and he do not whet the edge, then must he put to more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. In other words, sharpen that axe before you choose to swing it. Why? Because all you're doing is working hard, but you're not bringing any kind of benefit. I know lots of people come to me and say, I work so hard. Yeah, but you work hard with a blunt edge. You work hard without taking the time to actually sharpen the iron. And the picture here, and the one that I think is so critical and so important, is that you should use wisdom with what you put your hands to. Look, the wisdom of God will tell you that as you work is going to bring difficulty. That as you engage in the manure of the hardship that you face on a day-to-day basis, you need to continue because the gain that you will get out of it will come eventually, and you need to stick with doing what God has called you to do and not be discouraged. The reward will soon come. But as you're working and as you're laboring, sharpen that edge. Take the time to sharpen the edge. Don't be in such a rush that you end up working so hard that you have nothing to show for it because you didn't use your head. We live in the greatest time to be alive. We have the most powerful tools available to us. Let's take the time to understand what it is that God has asked us to put our hands to, and let's do it with wisdom. Let's do it with discernment. Let's do it with understanding, and let's go watch God do great things. Folks, that's my encouragement to you. Look, let me just simply say this. The Bible is filled with insight in how you can be successful in every area of your life. Not just spiritually, but understand that spiritually translates to everything else. Physically, your finances, all the things that you deal with. God has the solutions for all of it. So get into his word. Trust him. Read what he has to say about these things. And then get out there, do the work, and fight the good fight. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of the fact that you're investing in this. Keep on reading God's word. God will bless you. Also, looking forward to, in a few weeks, the upcoming Q&A. Hold on to those questions. We cannot wait to bless you guys and to be able to answer every question that you have. It is our desire to equip you in a way that will bless you in serving the Lord. So we love you guys. God bless you. Keep reading the word and keep fighting the good fight.